Indian horror story.
The Whispering Banyan. In the heart of a small village in West Bengal, there stood an ancient banyan tree. Its roots twisted and curled like the fingers of a monstrous being, stretching across the village square. The villagers believed the tree was cursed. Whispers floated from its branches at night, eerie voices murmuring in an unknown tongue. None dared to go near it after sunset. But young Raju, a headstrong boy of 16, scoffed at these tales. Ghosts and curses are for cowards, he laughed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he decided to prove everyone wrong. Armed with a lantern and a stubborn grin, he marched towards the banyan tree. As he stepped closer, the air grew thick, heavy with an unnatural silence. The crickets stopped chirping. The wind died. The village lights seemed dimmer. Raju felt an odd chill creep up his spine, but he pressed on. Then, he heard it. A whisper. Soft, yet sharp. Close, yet distant. Raju. His breath hitched. He spun around, the lantern flickering wildly. Who's there? He demanded. But there was no one. Only the gnarled roots, the swaying vines, and the ominous hush of the night. Then, the whisper came again. This time, it was followed by a faint, hollow giggle. The sound sent icy needles through his veins. He held up his lantern to the massive trunk and froze. There, nestled among the roots, was a small wooden swing, swaying ever so slightly. The villagers said that many years ago, a little girl had played on that swing. One stormy night, she was found hanging from its ropes, her neck twisted unnaturally, her eyes wide with unspeakable terror. Since then, she had never left. Raju's bravado crumbled. He turned to run, but something grabbed his ankle. A cold, skeletal hand. With a scream, he kicked free, sprinting back to the village. He did not stop until he reached his home, panting, sweating, and shaking. He told his parents what had happened, expecting a scolding for his foolishness. But his mother only paled. His father's face darkened. "We warned you, Raju," his father said gravely. "Now, she knows your name." That night, as he lay in bed, trying to convince himself it was all a bad dream, he heard it again, soft, teasing, right outside his window. Raju. The whisper of the girl who never left. And this time, she was closer. Would you dare to walk past the banyan tree at night?
The Curse of Nishi. In the heart of Bangladesh, where ancient banyan trees stretch their roots deep into the earth and rivers hum forgotten songs, there is an old fear that grips the villagers at night. They whisper about the Nishi, the spirit that calls your name in the dark. Those who answer never return. The fateful knight Kamal was a fisherman, known for his bravery. He often wandered through the dense forests alone, unafraid of the stories the elders told. He believed in the river, the land, and his own two hands, but not in spirits. One evening, as he was returning from the river with his lantern swaying gently in the night breeze, the village was unusually silent. The moon, bright and full, cast eerie shadows on the narrow forest path. Then he heard it, a voice, soft, familiar. "Kamal?" His blood turned cold. It was his mother's voice, but she was at home, sleeping. "Kamal, come here." The voice came from the trees, sweet, luring. But something was off, too soft, too distant, stretching like a whisper on the wind. He stopped. The elders had warned of this. Never answer, never turn around. Keep walking. His hands trembled as he gripped his lantern tighter. The light flickered, the wind suddenly colder. Shadows twisted unnaturally around him. He took a deep breath and hurried forward. Then, footsteps. Rustling leaves. A presence behind him. He could hear the swaying of a white sari. The smell of damp earth and something rotten filled his nose. Slowly, against his better judgment, he turned his head. And there she stood. A woman in a white sari, her long black hair covering her face. She didn't move, yet her presence loomed larger than life. The lantern's light flickered in her direction, revealing nothing beneath the hair. No eyes, no mouth, just endless darkness where a face should be. The lantern died. A whisper slithered through the air. "You heard me." A gust of wind roared through the trees, and Kamal let out a scream. The villagers later found his boat floating aimlessly by the riverbank. His footprints led into the forest, but there were no footprints leading out. Kamal was never seen again. The warning. Even now, villagers say that on quiet nights, when the wind is still, you might hear a soft voice calling from the trees. If you ever hear your name whispered in the dark, do not answer, because Nishi is still waiting, still calling, and she always finds another name to whisper. Would you dare walk through the forest at night?
The Unseen One. an Indian folklore horror creepypasta. In a remote village in West Bengal, there was an ancient banyan tree standing at the heart of an abandoned temple. The villagers never went near it after sunset. They called it Andhakar Purush, the unseen one. Legends whispered that it was once a holy place, where sages meditated in search of enlightenment. But something terrible had been awakened beneath the roots. The story of Vikram was a city boy, arrogant and skeptical. He scoffed at the villagers' warnings, laughing at their superstitions. One evening, he set out with his phone and flashlight, determined to prove them wrong. The banyan tree loomed before him, its gnarled roots resembling grasping fingers. The temple ruins behind it were swallowed in darkness. The wind carried a whisper, a low, guttural voice, speaking a language Vikram didn't understand. "Who's there?" he called out, stepping closer. The whispers grew louder, turning into wet, clicking sounds, as if a mouth with too many teeth was speaking just behind his ear. His flashlight flickered. The branches of the banyan swayed, though there was no wind. Then he saw them. Shadowy hands, emerging from the tree's hollow, long fingers, black as ink, clawing at the air. The whispers turned into laughter, high-pitched, unnatural, hungry. Vikram stumbled back. His phone's screen showed a reflection behind him, a tall, faceless figure with elongated limbs. Something cold grasped his ankle. He screamed. The villagers heard it echo through the night, but no one dared to go near. By morning, Vikram was found near the tree. His face was frozen in an expression of terror, his body cold, but he was breathing. His eyes, however, were pitch black. He never spoke again. The villagers say the unseen one claimed him. They say if you stand near the banyan at night and listen closely, you'll hear his voice, whispering your name. Would you dare to visit the tree?